Hello and welcome back to the World Cup of Pokémon VGC in partnership with Elgato, brought to you by Victory Road. I'm going to be Jamie Boyts. I'm still going to be joined by Costa, and we're going to be jumping into our second game of this stream. It's going to be between Puerto Rico and Panama.
Exactly. We're going to be having Gabriel Cedeño versus Kenneth de Jesus, and we're going to go ahead and get the screen up for you to check out the current score between these two great countries. As at the moment, as it seems, Panama is in the lead, actually, 3-1 versus Puerto Rico, and some very interesting teams there. We've got Jonathan Quinones rocking that Calyrex Ice Rider with a Dusclops, something that you don't commonly see, versus Felipe with an Aegis Slash, something else you don't see that often, is it, Jamie?
Apparently you do if you're Puerto Rico as well. Sergio Mojico there is going to be running that Aegis Slash as well with the Xerneas. So both teams are going to be picking that Aegis Slash. It does have a very nice role in this 10. Wide Guard is very important dealing with someone like Kyogre and with Calyrex. It does have access to Shadow Sneak. We can just knock out a Shadow Rider in one shot as well. Definitely going to be a sleeper pick here, but it's still a very nice and strong Pokemon coming out in his Series 10 here.
Yeah, I think so. So quite interesting. I also see a Regidrago. What are your thoughts on Regidrago, actually, Jamie, so far in this meta?
It's definitely an interesting one to be brought into Pokemon like the Zacian and the Xerneas that would just completely ignore Regidrago. But then you'd be using it against the other restricteds, because you can see, like, against the Kyogre team, you're going to be able to resist the water types attacks that's coming out from the Kyogre. And basically, if you're facing no fairies, Regidrago is going to be a very strong Pokemon, which you can see on a couple of the teams there. They're not going to be rocking anything like that Calyrex team that's Jonathan was running there. That does seem that you got the Tapu Fini there to be able to block those Dragon Energies as well. So it seems like a lot of the teams here at least are going to be running those fairy type moves. So Regidrago in an interesting position in this meta.
It definitely is. Some really interesting teams from all of these players. Unfortunately, we're not able to stream these ones. Maybe a couple of them may have been recorded, but ladies and gents, we've got to go and get on to our show, our second match between Gabriel and Kenneth right now. Panama in the lead. So Gabriel's going to be wanting to extend that lead so they could go to 4-1, where, of course, let me remind you, ladies and gents, that there are a total of 8 matches between all teams in this phase. So the minimum that if Panama does win, they could get is a tie. So Calyrex, Shadow Rider, Incineroar, Rillaboom, Urshifu, Rapid Strike. We've got the Nihilego and the Regieleki on Gabriel's side.
So again, bringing out that solid core of the Incineroar, Rillaboom, and Urshifu as well. And then going to be pairing it up with the Shadow Rider Calyrex this time as well. And Nihilego is a very nice pairing with the Calyrex because you can deal with those Incineroars that do resist the Astral Barrages coming out. You can just deal with it immediately with a Meteor Beam coming with that Power Herb to be able to just knock it out in one shot. So a very nice pairing there, and it's going to be a very solid team coming out here from Gabriel.
As we're going to be moving on to Kenneth's side and player profile. Oh, rocking the Calyrex Shadow Rider, Tapu Lele, Entei, the Rapid Strike, Urshifu, Whimsicott, and this Ditto. This team seems a bit familiar, Jamie.
Yeah, this is a team that was able to get top 4 in one of the recent Victory Road tournaments. So yeah, we're going to be doing another mirror match with two restricted here. We had Xerneas versus Xerneas in the first game. We're going to be having Shadow Rider versus Shadow Rider, potentially versus 2 Shadow Riders here in this second game because of that Ditto. Potentially being able to give yourself a second restricted. It's going to be very strong coming out in this Series 10. Going to be able to copy any of the opposing Pokemon that could be restricted. You could get 2 restricteds on your side of the field if you do use that Ditto.
Exactly. It's all about managing the board as good as possible. When you have a Ditto, it's much more easier to do it because you bring that threat, whether it's a choice scarf or any sort of other item. Ditto is always a threat that you have to try to take into consideration going into the matchup. And talking about matchup, let's go straight to the match. How are we feeling about the situation right now? Like you said, Jamie, mirror match between the Calyrexes, but quite different components in the remainder of both these trainers' teams.
I would be inclined to give the slight advantage to Kenneth's side of the here with that Whimsicott, because the Whimsicott's the speed control is Tailwind with Prankster, and Regieleki is the speed control that's going to be coming out from Gabriel's side of the field, but that the Electro Web is slightly slower pace than the Tailwinds, because you do get that doubled speed from the Tailwinds, where it's just a -1 drop from the Electro Webs. So it will depend who can get the speed control here. You don't want to be in the position where you're facing down Shadow Rider versus Shadow Rider with no speed control on the field, because then it just comes down to which Shadow Rider is able to use their Astral Barrage first. So speed control is going to be very important in this game. The Whimsicott from Kenneth's side of the field, the Regieleki from Kenneth's side of the field as well. You do have access to fake out from both the Rillaboom and the Incineroar here to be able to stop any of those Tailwinds coming out from the Whimsicott, at least for that turn. But then you do have to worry about the LA that could just be setting up that Psychic Terrain to stop any of those fake outs from coming out onto the field as well. So it's definitely going to be an interesting match of positioning here, trying to get your Calyrex into position to be able to outspeed the opposing Pokemon so that you don't have to rely on who's moving first there.
And then we've also got the potential Ditto coming in, even transforming into a Whimsicott, try to get your own Tailwind up if possible too. So a lot of moving pieces to this set, as we are going to be seeing Kenneth lead with an Entei and Whimsicott, whilst over on Gabriel's side, he's going to be leading with the Incineroar and Urshifu Rapid Strike.
Yeah, so quite a nice lead coming out from both players here. Whimsicott wanting to get that Tailwind set on the but could be put a stop to that from the Incineroar from Gabriel's side of the field if it wants to go for that fake out, and would be immune to any of the encores that could come out that we've seen picking up now that Dynamax is no longer available on the Whimsicott as well, thanks to that dark typing, making it immune to the Prankster as well. And the Entei does have to worry about the Surging Strike could come out from the Urshifu here. Going to be immune to the fake out thanks to the inner, but would have to land a Sacred Fire Burn onto the Urshifu if it wanted to let itself survive this turn.
Oh, but we're going to be seeing the Whimsicott actually opt to go for the Protect there. Fake Out does try to target it down, but does fail, of course, to do so, as the Entei is just going to go for a raw Stone Edge. It's not going to be able to have a heightened critical hit chance land connect there, but deals so much damage, as the Urshifu is going to be going for the Surging Strikes, and at that range, it's going to be picking up a straight KO, to be honest, because in the end of the day, Urshifu is really, really strong, and that Entei didn't do much there other than get a bit of chip damage onto the Incineroar.
Yeah, probably needs to go for that Sacred Fire Burn onto the Urshifu. Based on the damage that it did, it would have been able to survive that Surging Strikes coming out. So, but you do get a lot of chip onto that Incineroar, and now you have an Incineroar of your own, thanks to you bringing in that Ditto as well. So going to be able to get it to Intimidate onto the opposing Pokemon here, and have access to Fake Out themselves as well. So could be putting a stop to that Urshifu from going for an attack this turn. And then if you want to follow up with something like a Moonblast, that's good damage to the Urshifu. If it is a Focus Sash variety, then you'd break the Focus Sash with the Fake Out and then follow up with the Moonblast. And if you do have a Focus Sash on the Whimsicott as well, you don't really need to be going for Tailwind this turn. Something you can do with Whimsicott is you can all out when you go for your Tailwinds, so that you can try and get your speed control up as late as possible, so you have access to it for as long as possible. So quite a nice switch in for the Ditto. They're getting that and having access to that Fake Out, so that the Whimsicott is free to do whatever it wants this turn.
Exactly, as we're going to be seeing the Urshifu actually opt to go for the Detect right now, as that will be blocking Kenneth's Fake Out from his Ditto transformed into Incineroar. Moonblast wanting to try to focus down on the Urshifu, which means Gabriel's Incineroar is very free to go for that parting shot into the Whimsicott. Will be able to bring its special attack down to -1, whilst most crucially getting that pivot action going, allowing Gabriel to go ahead and bring a fresh new Pokemon of their choice, as it looks like they're opting to go for the Calyrex Shadow Rider, even though the Incineroar is on the other side of the field. But it's not too scary, as you've got that Urshifu. We can checkmate that slot.
Well, you know if your Incineroar has a dark move or not. If it doesn't have a dark move, then the Calyrex is slightly safer on Gabriel's side of the field. So feeling quite confident bringing it in here. But one of the awkward things is, now that you've gone the Protect on the Urshifu, you are still facing down that Whimsicott. Encore is picking up in popularity a lot on Whimsicott as well, and you'd be able to out-prioritize, even an Aqua Jet wouldn't be able to out-prioritize that Whimsicott if it does go for that Encore here. So Whimsicott here going to be free if it does have that to put a stop to any of the Urshifu's attack this turn. That would free up the Ditto to be able to get off either a Dark type attack if it does have access to that, or a Flare Blitz or a Parting Shot to be able to reduce the special attack down of that Calyrex. And then you'd be able to go for a Tailwind of your own with the Whimsicott the next turn to be able to get your Calyrex into position. But it looks like it's going to be a Tailwind just straight up this turn.
No Encore. Tailwind comes out as the Calyrex is going to be able to very swiftly pull off a substitute there to try to block any sort of damage coming onto it, as it does protect itself from a Flare Blitz. Like you did mention, Jamie, doesn't look like, at least for now, there's any Dark type move on that Incineroar, as it should have gone for it all the time there, which does leave it open to getting straight KO'd from this Urshifu. Now the tally is up to 2 KO'd fire types on Kenneth's side, both from the surging strikes of this Urshifu on Gabriel's side.
It doesn't look like you're very concerned if you're on Kenneth's side of the field. You're probably going to be having that Calyrex springing in on this side of the field now, and you just click that Tailwind button. That means you're going to be faster than the Calyrex and the opposing Urshifu as well. Yeah. Substitute was broken with the Flare Blitz as well, so the Calyrex is just going to be completely open to this Astral Barrage. There's nothing really that Gabriel can do to put a stop to that Astral Barrage. So even though the Entei seemed like it got some insignificant Stone Edge chip at the beginning of the match, every bit helps when you're facing down this Calyrex, because even though the Incineroar is able to resist the Astral Barrage, if taken damage to put it in range of it, it doesn't matter if it's going to be resisting at all. So Kenneth has positioned themselves into a really, really strong position here to just start firing off those really powerful Astral Barrages.
And this is why Calyrex Shadow Rider is such a huge threat. It can just come in late game and literally sweep for you if you have the right positioning. As we're going to be seeing the Incineroar switch in for Calyrex on Gabriel's side, the Urshifu going for that Detect, as we do, of course, see the Astral Barrage coming out. Even if this is an Incineroar that resists, it still will deal so much respectable damage from that range. It looked like it could potentially be a 2-hit KO, as the Whimsicott does try to go for the Moonblast into the Urshifu slot, but will fail to do so.
Well, you saw it did exactly half of the remaining HP of that Incineroar there, so that's going to be a very awkward one, whether the Incineroar is able to survive another one of those Astral Barrages. But at least you have access to Fake Out this turn onto the Whimsicott, so if you are carrying that Focus Sash on the Urshifu, then it will be able to get off an attack this turn, so you'll be able to do a huge amount of damage to the opposing Calyrex, even if the Astral Barrage is able to come off, and even if it's strong enough to pick up the Incineroar this turn, then you're still going to be putting that Calyrex pretty low. And the Whimsicott here is going to be protecting itself from that Fake Out that could have come out from the Incineroar, and that's exactly what was coming out here.
So maybe being an indication of a Focus Sash on the Whimsicott, as we are going to be seeing the Psy Shock coming out from the Calyrex. Doesn't even opt to go for Astral Barrage, wants to try to get rid of that Urshifu as quick as possible, is met with a Focus Sash, as the Urshifu now is very free to try to go for Surging Strikes into the Calyrex slot. The real question is, ladies and gents, can it pick up the KO? Because it's going to be so close in doing so with that Life Orb recoil damage coming out, and it just survives just enough for one more hit.
Yeah, and even if the Urshifu didn't have access to Aqua Jet here, it would KO itself to its own Life Orb recoil here. So it looks like Gabriel actually positioned themselves into a really nice position to be able to deal with this Calyrex. It looked like a strong position for Kenneth to start firing off those Astral Barrages. Quite curious why he went for the Expanding Force there into the Urshifu instead of the Astral Barrage. It seemed like you'd be able to KO the Incineroar that turn, maybe stalling off a turn so that you'd be able to go for the Astral Barrage this turn once you've broken the sash of the Urshifu, so you can pick up the double knockout in that case. But that's you've allowed the Urshifu to get that Surging Strikes off. It's going to put you in range of Aqua Jet, and Urshifu does not care about that Protect coming out from the Calyrex.
As the Aqua Jet actually comes out, and of course it will be ignoring the Protect from the Calyrex. Guaranteed KO onto it, bypassing that, as we're going to be seeing the Calyrex Shadow Rider's ability interaction there, now allowing Incineroar to chomp on that Citrus Berry there, as the Moonblast will be coming out from the Whimsicott into the Urshifu, gets rid of it finally, but it is too late. So much damage dealt from that Urshifu on Gabriel's side, as the Flare Blitz comes out. We'll be going ahead and bringing the Whimsicott down to 1 HP, confirming that it is indeed a Focus Sash set.
Yeah, so even though Kenneth managed to get speed control on their side of the field, Gabriel was able to position themselves into a position to be able to defeat that Calyrex, even without relying on his own Calyrex there. So now it's going to be joining the field, going to be able to pick up the knockout on that Whimsicott there. So really nice play coming out from both players, but Gabriel just able to position themselves into this position so that they can just click the Astral Barrage from the Calyrex and pick up the knockout on this Whimsicott. So it is going to be a forfeit coming out from Kenneth's side of the field. I think a little bit of a missed opportunity if you are carrying that Encore on the Whimsicott. Of course, we don't know if the Whimsicott has access to it. This is not an open team sheet format, which is a nice change of pace from the previous tournaments that we've seen. So we don't know if the Whimsicott is going to be carrying that Encore. If it did have access to Encore, the Urshifu going for the Detect there was the perfect opportunity to go for it. You can always go for Tailwind next turn to set up your Calyrex into position, because if you go for the Encore onto that Urshifu, then you prevent your Incineroar / Ditto from being able to be KO'd from that Surging Strikes. You can just go for a Parting Shot to switch yourself out in Calyrex and then go for the Tailwind. So maybe jumping the gun a little bit with the speed control there, because the Urshifu was still able to attack, didn't get encored into Detect. It was able to position so they could just get that Surging Strikes onto the Calyrex, and all you need is that one Surging Strikes. That'll put it into knockout range of the Aquajet. So that's all you need to be able to deal with that Calyrex, especially because you've got the priority from the Aquajet, you've got the priority from the Grassy Glide as well. So if you just get one strong attack into the Calyrex, you're not going to really care about the Tailwind.
Exactly. And I think, unfortunately, Kenneth wasn't able to have a lot of answers against the Urshifu. They're going to have to try to go ahead and really think about the strategy, bring it back so they can try to force that game 3 if possible. As I'm not sure. What do you think might be the options for Kenneth right now in handling that situation? I feel like the Entei went down far too quick in game 1. Then the Ditto came in for an Incineroar. I'm not sure about that switch in. I guess they felt forced to do it as they're up against an Incineroar and they thought they might as well try to get maybe a pivot going. Don't want to try to leave their Calyrex wide open to get KO'd straight away. But I feel like Ditto could have done so much more, and hopefully for Kenneth's side, they're going to be able to bring it and maybe try to handle it a bit better.
You do get something nice from the Ditto copying the Incineroar. You get to see if it is carrying a Dark Move there, so you know if your own Calyrex is slightly safer in the face of Incineroar. But yeah, you can see what he was going for there with the Entei going for the Surge into Incineroar. When you have your own Calyrex, you want to try and get the what would be resist to the Calyrex into knockout range from the Astral Barrage. So it does make sense to go for so much into that Incineroar, try and get all the chip you can to be able to put it in range of Astral Barrage. But it looks like we're not going to be seeing that Entei. Still going to be the Whimsicott, but it's paired up with the Tapu Lele this time.
Tapu Lele is going to be bringing the Psych Terrain, but only before the Rillaboom brings the Grassy Terrain, as we are going to be seeing that speed interaction there, indicating, of course, that the Tapu Lele is naturally faster than the Rillaboom. But even before seeing the Grassy Terrain being proc, we're going to be seeing a Psychic Seed coming out from that Tapu Lele. It will be increasing its special defense by 1 stage. So very interesting and nice item to be paired up with its own terrain setter there. But unfortunately in this scenario, it's got grass terrain on the field, and Rillaboom is very free to go for fake out of Grassy Glides.
Yeah, so getting the wrong end of the terrain interactions there. You did want the Psychic Terrain on the field to stop any fake outs that could come out from the Rillaboom here. And now the Rillaboom can put a stop to any Moonblast that can come out from the Whimsicott. Doesn't really have to worry too much about Tailwinds this turn. If you want to put your Tapu Lele faster than the Incineroar there, then the Urshifu, sorry, you'd need to go for the Tailwinds. But we'll have to see if the Tapu Lele is even able to survive the turn. If the Rillaboom is able to get that fake out into the Whimsicott, Urshifu could be faster than the Tapu Lele. We've seen a bit bulky Urshifu picking up quite a lot, so potentially going to be underspeeding this Tapu Lele. So we're going to have to see the speed interaction here. And it looks like the Urshifu is going to be moving before that Tapu Lele.
All right, it is definitely faster there. It will be landing the Surging Strikes first. Of course, not just missing, the KO onto it, but bringing it down to such small HP there, whilst the Tapu Lele is going to retaliate, goes for the Moonblast, does connect into the Urshifu, and will be bringing it down to its Focus Sash right now. So we see both Urshifu and Tapu Lele trading off damage onto each other, but then more importantly for Kenneth, they are focusing down on the Urshifu, which proved to be so troublesome in that game 1.
This is the way to not care about Tailwind at all. The Tapu Lele is taking enough damage that it's going to be in range of Grassy Glide or Aquajet here.
Yep.
So you'd have to switch out the Tapu Lele and switch back in to try and put a stop to those priority moves. And the Focus Sash here going to be a nice item choice for the Urshifu. If it was one of those bulky Urshifus not able to survive the Moonblast coming out from the Tapu Lele here, so going to allow that Urshifu to stick around. Go for one of those Aqua Jets if it wants to pick up the knockout on that Tapu Lele. The Focus Sash on the Whimsicott and by that fake out as well now. Probably not going to be threatened by a knockout by either the Rillaboom or the Whimsicott, but going to be key if that the Calyrex is waiting in the back, whether we see the Incineroar again. The Focus Sash would have been broken, so it would be in range of a Flare Blitz here. But Urshifu is just going to be protecting itself this turn, not going for any of those Aqua Jets.
Oh, and Tapu Lele is going to follow suit in fashion immediately after. Whimsicott tries to go ahead and pick off that Urshifu with the Moonblast, but is not able to do so as the Rillaboom goes for the U-turn onto the Whimsicott. I do really like Gabriel's play here. He's, for me, they've definitely got the advantage of being able to bring that fresh Calyrex onto the field right now.
Yeah, so going to be able to just pretty much pick up a double knockout with Astral Barrage if that Whimsicott does not click Tailwind here. And even if it does, the Urshifu would be able to pick up the knockout on that Tapu Lele with Aqua Jet as well. So you still do have to be a little bit careful here if you're Gabriel. It does look like you're in a good position at the moment. Calyrex is looking pretty nice. The Grass Terrain Recovery might allow the Tapu Lele to survive the Aqua Jet, but Urshifu is a very strong Pokemon. It will be very close if that's able to pick up the knockout here. And the Whimsicott, again, does still have the potential play of encoring the Urshifu into that Protect before it could go for the Aqua Jet. But if you do go for that, then the Calyrex is just free to go for those the Astral Barrage, and they will just pick up the double knockout in that case. So you'd most likely be seeing a Tailwind coming out here, which is what we are. And that should allow the Tapu Lele to move if it's able to survive this Aqua Jet, which is incoming.
Incoming, and it is not able to survive, unfortunately, for Kenneth's side. You never know if a Tapu Lele could have been carrying a very wild Shadow Ball as its coverage there that could have even guaranteed a KO onto the Calyrex with that Tailwind support there. But the Calyrex is going to be going for the substitute and gets a bit of HP recovery from that Grass Terrain. So what I do like from Kenneth's play is that they've been trying to wait it out and not click Tailwind too quickly, just so they could be able to bring it in at the right point, just like we're seeing right now, with the momentum that the Calyrex brings, completely utilizing maximum Tailwind turns.
Yeah, and that is an incredibly brave substitute to go for if you are the Calyrex, because you are facing down that Whimsicott. It hasn't gone for Encore yet, but you still have to be concerned if that Whimsicott is carrying it. Is picking up in popularity a lot now that we've lost access to Dynamax. You can Encore whatever you want at this point, apart from those Dark types, of course, if you're a Whimsicott. But yeah, the Calyrex here going for substitute means that if Whimsicott does carry that Encore, then it would just be able to lock it into that substitute and free up the Calyrex on field completely here. So going to be very crucial if that Whimsicott is carrying Encore. If it is not, then the Calyrex is going to be able to move first and break the substitute, and Whimsicott wouldn't be able to follow up with a KO onto the Calyrex. That would allow the Calyrex on Gabriel's side of the field free to click that Astral Barrage button. So whether an Encore is coming out from this Whimsicott is going to be very crucial here.
Oh, we are going to be seeing the Incineroar switching in favor of that Urshifu, which is switching out. Maybe Gabriel preferring to have it in the back, of course, as from what it does seem, the Calyrex on Gabriel's side is going to be going for the Protect, so it's not going to be subject to an Encore if it does come out. But we don't see anything like that. We just see the Calyrex on Kenneth's side saying, listen, I want to go for a substitute of my own and try to pick off that Urshifu, which is now an Incineroar, as that Moonblast is still going to be able to deal respectable amounts of damage on a neutral Incineroar, which is known to be so bulky.
Yeah, very nice play coming out from Kenneth's side of the field here. Knowing that Gabriel would respect that Encore, switching in fake out pressure to be able to put a stop to that Encore, and really punishing that Protect coming out from Gabriel's Calyrex here, getting that substitute up of their own. So really nice position, going to be able to go for the Astral Barrage very freely here. Even if the Whimsicott gets faked out to stop a potential Encore, then we're just going to be seeing the substitutes break on both players' side of the field. But then you still have the speed control access with Kenneth, so you can go for that Astral Barrage guaranteed first before the opposing substitute. So it'll be a very nice play coming out from Kenneth's side of the field. If you do have access to that Encore and you just go for it that turn while going for an Astral Barrage, that would have put Kenneth into a pretty poor position. But that substitute was a very smart play.
It was indeed, as we had to be seeing Kenneth go for the protect now on their side of the field. The Calyrex, Moonblast, no fake out. Moonblast goes into Incineroar. We'll be able to bring it to just under its half HP, whilst we see the substitute once again coming out from Gabriel's Calyrex, maybe anticipating the substitute having been broken there, as we are going to be seeing it try to go for the damage over on Incineroar, hoping to pick up any sort of damage onto the Calyrex on Kenneth's side, but failing to do so.
Yeah, so Kenneth playing really nicely here, getting just extra chip onto the Incineroar as well. Like I was saying before, every bit of chip helps onto the Incineroar when you are playing Calyrex. It's probably going to be in range of at least 2 Astral Barrages at this point. So even if the substitute was able to be broken in the next turn, then you can still pick up the knockout on the Incineroar with a follow-up Astral Barrage. And because of your as one ability acting like Unnerve as well, then the Incineroar doesn't have access to its Citrus Berry while it's on the field, facing down that Calyrex. So it is going to be in range of 2 Astral Barrages here. And still no Encore coming out from the Whimsicott, so you've got to worry if it's even carrying it at this point.
Indeed, as we're going to be seeing the Astral Barrage comes out from Calyrex on Kenneth's side. It will be outspeeding everything first thanks to that Tailwind, dealing so much damage onto the Incineroar, breaking the substitute off of Gabriel's Calyrex, only to be subject to damage immediately after. But wait, we're going to be seeing the Moonblast coming out. The double up is enough to pick up the KO onto the Incineroar. Kenneth's Calyrex must be so happy right now, as we are going to be seeing Gabriel's Calyrex go for an Astral Barrage of its own, and it does pick up a KO onto the Whimsicott. This might be quite crucial here, as Tailwind is going to run out, and Whimsicott, the Tailwind user, is now up the field, whilst also giving a +1 special attack boost onto Gabriel's Calyrex.
But you know which slot the Whimsicott was in? It was facing down that Calyrex, and we saw Ditto being brought in the first game, so if it was brought in this second game as well, we could be seeing that double restricted coming out in Series 10, and that is going to be the Ditto coming in for his side of the field, facing down the Calyrex Shadow Rider, so going to be able to copy and get 2 Shadow Riders on Kenneth's side of the field. Rillaboom is going to be able to come in, but it's not going to be able to fake out anything, because even though Ditto is a normal type at the moment, it's not going to be in a few seconds. It's going to be a ghost immune to the fake out, so going to be really nice for Kenneth here. At this point, for the rest of the game, you can pretty much just click Astral Barrage and just pick up the knockouts you need. So really nice for Kenneth here. And even if it comes down to speed ties between the Calyrex, you still have 2 speed tie potentials that you can win. So does definitely put the odds in your favor of whether you're able to get that Astral Barrage off first. So even if the Calyrex can protect here, get itself out of the Tailwind, and then go for the Astral Barrage, could come down to speed ties in that case, but the speed ties are technically in Kenneth's favor because you do have 2 of them to be able to try and move first here. It's slightly more optimal to go for a protect with one of them to try and win 1 speed tie one turn and 1 the next turn, but then that does leave you open to the Rillaboom just being able to huge damage if you protect the singular Calyrex on Gabriel's side of the field. So it's definitely going to come down to an Astral Barrage between these 2 players, and it looks like that at least the Ditto is going to be protecting this turn.
The Ditto's going to be protecting, as the Calyrex on Kenneth's side is going to be winning the speed tie, picking up a KO, dealing onto the Calyrex on Gabriel's side, dealing so much damage onto the Rillaboom. So Kenneth is just absolutely rocking this game 2 right now, as the Calyrex is going to be, of course, subject there to Life Orb Recoil. Rillaboom on Gabriel's side is trying to target down the Ditto, but is only met with a Protect.
Yeah, if you'd have got the correct Calyrex protecting there with the knockoff, then that would have put you in a still a reasonable position. You'd have still maybe been able to survive with the Rillaboom, with a +1 Astral Barrage coming your way, but Urshifu's definitely not going to be able to, and the Rillaboom was much lower than I expected it to be, so probably not still going to be able to survive the Astral Barrage. So Kenneth going with the play that puts the odds of the speed tie more in your favor. If you protect the Calyrex, then it's a 50-50 coin flip whether you're going to move first, and then you get that coin flip twice rather than a 2/3 chance. So even the double priority here, not quite strong enough to take out his own Calyrex with slightly reduced HP because it is a Ditto, and being able to eat that Citrus Berry because it's not facing down an opposing Calyrex, so not going to be affected by that Unnerve. And then the Calyrex, the actual Calyrex on Kenneth's side of the field with that special attack boost from the Grimnay, easily able to pick up a knockout on both the Urshifu and the Rillaboom here, and Kenneth is going to tie up this series.
Tie up this series indeed, pushing this set between both Panama and Puerto Rico to a third game between these two very great trainers there. A lot of different interactions, which I really enjoyed there. Kenneth, of course, did make sure to get rid of the substitute on Gabriel's Calyrex, of course, because the imposter ability of Ditto would not have worked if the substitute was still on play. So wanting to make sure as well, that's a quite nice touch there. So try to bring the Calyrex in favor on their side of the field. And then, of course, a Berry being procced visually by a Calyrex. Yes, it's a Ditto, but you never see Berry on Calyrex. Of course, it is carrying Unnerved there, but very impressive play. What are your thoughts? I mean, Kenneth really brought it back there, but do you think Gabriel's going to try to go with the same game plan?
Potentially. You did have the Tapu Lele to try and put a stop to priority, but it never actually got up its Psychic Terrain for any of the turns, so the priority was always active on the field, and I was still quite surprised. We still don't know if the Whimsicott was carrying Encore, but now I saw exactly what Kenneth was going for there. By not encoring the Calyrex, you know that Whimsicott is facing down the opposing Calyrex. If you can just break that substitute and lose Whimsicott on that turn, then you get to copy the Calyrex and get 2 Calyrex of your own. So definitely makes sense there, and you still have to leave Gabriel there wandering, just like you've left me. Whether that Whimsicott is even carrying the Encore at that point, but really smart going to be able to get both of the Calyrexes there with the Ditto. So, but going to be interesting if we're into that position as well, because it does come down to which slot the opposing Pokemon are in for the Ditto to be most effective. So maybe both players will be thinking even which Pokemon they send out in the lead here. The lead position does actually matter when you offer Ditto, so that could come into play. That even the decision right now of which one is first and which one is second actually does matter going into these games. Usually doesn't particularly matter, but in this case, when you're facing down a Ditto, it definitely could be crucial.
Yeah, it definitely could be crucial, and there's kind of mind games involved there where you're thinking, okay, let me try to read which slot each Pokemon's going to go in based on how comfortable my opponent feels about that Pokemon or being brought into that setup, into that matchup. But we're going to be seeing Kenneth go ahead, bring the same lead as they did during Game 2, the Whimsicott and the Tapu Lele, whilst over on Gabriel's side, we're actually going to be seeing the Rillaboom and the Calyrex Shadow Rider. So a bit of a change up there. Of course, Gabriel will be going ahead and still having their terrain on the field being the grassy one.
Yeah, still going to allow the Tapu Lele to get that Psychic Seed boost. I'm not sure that's even going to be able to allow it to survive an Astral Barrage coming out from the Calyrex. Such a strong move, even with the equivalent of an Assault Vest on the Tapu Lele. I'm still a little bit skeptical if it can survive the Astral Barrage. So really, you have a pretty safe move of just fake out the Whimsicott Astral Barrage here, and if there's no Protects coming out, at least that's probably a double knockout, or depending on if the Tapu Lele is able to survive that as well. But it's at least a Protect coming out for the Whimsicott there to make sure that any from the fake out, but the fake out is targeting the Tapu Lele, which did not protect.
Oh, did not protect, and the Astral Barrage is going to come out. I know for a fact the calc means it should survive it, but I'm not sure with that chip there. It might just be enough to pick up the KO, and it does. Overwhelming momentum gained from Gabriel's side right there, making sure that they focus down on the Tapu Lele. They don't let it get away with anything, because I do believe that it is calced at 100% to survive Life Orb Calyrex there.
Yeah, well, if you've calculated to survive that, you need to factor in fake out chip as well from the Rillaboom here. So really strong play coming out from Gabriel's side of the field to be able to read into that protect of the Whimsicott. But now you're still going to have access to Tailwind if you're on Kenneth's side of the field, and now you've brought in your own Calyrex. There's no substitutes on the Calyrex on Gabriel's side of the field, so a really strong first turn. But now it seems like you're a little bit on the back foot again, because you can just click Tailwind if you're Kenneth's side of the field, and that means your Astral Barrage will go first. Your Rillaboom will be able to at least survive the Astral Barrage, and we do know it has not well here, so it's still going to be a little bit of an awkward position because you want to be picking up the knockout on the opposing Calyrex and doing some good damage to the Rillaboom, but then if you do attack with the Calyrex this turn, this leaves you open to go to being KO'd from the knockoff from the Rillaboom here. So not a move we see too often on Rillabooms here, usually where you want 2 grass moves to try and bypass Serena that's being able to pick up a lot, but to knock off the move of choice here is going to be very crucial in this match, and it looks like the Calyrex on Kenneth's side of the field is going to be protecting, and we do finally see the Encore.
the encore coming out right now as the substitute will be coming out from Calarex's side on Gabriel. Very risky substitute there, as of course Kenneth could have easily have gone just for that simple tailwind play there. Maybe an anticipation of the encore, perhaps?
Yeah, but then you probably going from the knockoff into the Calyrex to cover for that as well. So even if you lose your Calyrex, they lose theirs as well. And then you'd be down to the last two Pokemon. So yeah, we finally see the encore, and it's keeping it hidden that entire time puts Kenneth into a really commanding position here. The Rillaboom is completely turn. The Calyrex has just gone for that substitute, so it does need to take a turn protecting, as that Incineroar could switch in to get that fake out pressure back on the field to be able to allow it to survive that turn. But that could just leave the Calyrex on Kenneth's side of the field completely free to get that substitute up. And if you click Encore into the Calyrex this turn, you are guaranteed that substitute.
Exactly. So we're going to be seeing the Rillaboom switch out for the Incineroar right now. So wanting to get that fake out pressure for the following turn. I really like this play from Gabriel's side, as I'm just expecting the Calyrex on Gabriel's side to go for that very simple protect, as we do see right there, just trying to think a turn ahead of the game to try to get that positioning back, fake out the following turn onto the Whimsicott, as we are going to be seeing the Tailwind come out from this Whimsicott on Kenneth's side, accompanied by that Astral Barrage, which we know, even if it is an Incineroar, it resists it. Guess what? It's still going to deal a lot of damage that it really shouldn't. As we do see there, it does roughly 1/3 of Incineroar's health, whilst being able to get a bit of recovery back from the grassy terrain.
Yeah, so very strong play coming out from Kenneth's side of the field there. Not going for the encore into the Calyrex, expecting to protect. If they did just attack that turn, then you lose your Calyrex and the Whimsicott goes down to its Focus Sash at that point. So really strong play. Getting that Tailwind up on their side of the field, even before the Fake Out. So even if the Fake Out goes into this turn, it's not a speed tie between the Calyrex and can go for a substitute to try and stall out a turn of that fake out to allow the Whimsicott to be able to attack the next turn as well. Or you can just go for the Astral Barrage to try and take out the substitute, because even if you lose your Calyrex, you probably got your Ditto in the back.
Oh, but no, we just see the raw Astral Barrage from Kenneth's side. I'm not sure if this is going to really work out for them right now, as they're going to deal a lot of damage onto the Incineroar. They will be breaking the substitute on Gabriel's Calyrex, but like you said, Jamie, I think Kenneth is banking on the Ditto coming in, transforming itself into the Calyrex, as this Calyrex right now picks up double KO, giving itself +2 special attack, and this Ditto is going to be so terrifying to have to deal with at +2 and speed control in its favor.
Yeah, so even losing the Calyrex there, it's still quite nice for you. You still get the Grenade boosts from the Aswan as well onto the Calyrex, but that's kind of detrimental when you are facing down that opposing Ditto. So it's pretty much just going to be a game of Astral Barrage for all the rest of the game here at this point. If you can stall out the Tailwinds, maybe at least, then that could be good for Gabriel's side of the field. But actually, of course, the Ditto come in on there. Because there is only one Pokemon left, so it does actually force itself to copy the Incineroar. So actually, going back to the very start of the game, like I was saying, the order that you send out your Pokemon is very crucial here. The Calyrex would have been put in the second position on the right. It would have copied the Calyrex there, got the +2 special attack boost, and pretty much just clicked Astral Barrage for the rest of the game. But now you've got a Calyrex at +2 with a single target Astral Barrage into the Incineroar. That resistance does not matter at that point. Even with the Tailwinds, we saw that the Calyrex on Gabriel's side of the field was going to be faster than the Incineroar, so just going to be able to launch that Astral Barrage. Even if it's not able to pick up the knockout, you've got your Urshifu waiting in your back, you've got the Rillaboom waiting in the back. So yeah, just really crucial. Like even small things that almost never matter. When you're against the Ditto, it does. The choice of which slot you're putting your Pokemon in is really important. We see it exactly come through there.
It really does. And I mean, that kind of makes me think maybe Kenneth either mistakenly thought that they can actually choose the slot, or I'm just not sure about the other option, to be honest, because I felt like surely you should go for a substitute there, perhaps, so you can try to at least benefit in bringing the Ditto for the Whimsicott that gets KO'd, and having the Incineroar, and then you've got Tailwind support on your side, at least, just for one more turn, I think. So, or just rely on speed ties, to be honest. I just felt like that was a bit of a misplay in the end scenario, or just maybe just a confusion over the interaction of Ditto being brought into the first slot?
I think the Whimsicott did still have access to protect that turn. So could have gone for protect the turn that it lost the Calyrex, and then you'd have definitely been able to bring the Ditto on the Calyrex slot instead of the Incineroar. So just a slight misstep there. Positioned themselves really well, but just not going for protect on the Whimsicott that turn meant that they had to copy the Incineroar instead. And that just was not the Pokemon you wanted. Even if you were down to your last Pokemon being that Ditto, copying a +2 Calyrex is exactly the Pokemon you want to copy. And Kenneth did have the way of being able to guarantee that they would copy that, but instead, slight misstep. The Whimsicott did get KO'd as well. So Ditto had to come in the wrong slot.
I mean, it happens. It's VGC, ladies and gents. Very well played from both of those trainers. Absolutely representing in the most positive way both of their individual countries. But of course, there was only one winner in that set, and that was Gabriel versus Kenneth. 2-1. We'll be pushing Panama up to 4-1 against Puerto Rico. So right now, Panama have confirmed to at least earn 1 point, a tie from their match up against Puerto Rico. You never know. Puerto Rico might even bring it back to 4-4, but that will be left to be seen, as we are going to be going ahead, transitioning to our third match, but immediately after a very short break. Please don't go anywhere, and we'll be very, oh my lord, we'll be very back soon. Yes, we'll be back soon. Catch you in a bit.